Hey folks, Steve here with a very special unboxing video for you today. We are going to be looking at Schutztruppe from Compass Games, a new design, I think. I think this is a new design by Dennis Bishop and covers a very particular uh, theater of World War One. So if you couldn't tell by the year dates there on this, I'm actually pretty stoked to get this because this is the last game in a weird bundle that I've sort of been slowly getting. Some years ago, Compass, once upon a time, accidentally charged a bunch of folks who had pre-orders, and they had to refund all those and this, that, and the other. And I reached out and I said, you know what, don't refund me. And there were like 6 games or something that I had on pre-order. I said at the time I had the money and I could just say, okay, well, I will wait, and then you just send me the games, and that was all right. So over the last few years, I've occasionally, I've bought other games from Compass that were not part of that, but every once in a while, I'd get one of the new games that I had pre-ordered, having been charged, some time ago, and I want to say this is the last game for me from that list. I think there was like 4 or 5 or 6, and this was the last one on my list that I was waiting to get. So kind of excited to close that chapter of my like long awaited pre-order paid before the game was produced with Compass. But hey, I like Compass games and I like their stuff, so it was all good in the end. And so here we are. Let's flip on the back before we rip the shrink for a second. It's kind of a few things to absorb here. Complexity medium. Time scale, one turn is 1 month. The hex scale is 30 miles to a hex. We're talking about companies, battalions, 2 players. High suitability for solitaire, which is great news for me. Average time to play 3 to 4 hours, which means this is I guess, um, a big leap to get to the table and play. Ideally, one rule book, a 22 by 24 mounted map, so it is mounted. That's interesting. 176 counters, so very few counters. 2 setup cards, 2 player aids, and of course there's a bunch of historical context there. Now, this is the German East Africa Theater, so um, the whole kind of struggle there is rather interesting, and the Germans kind of holding out with their allies against British incursions is something of an interesting topic. I do wish I was a little more well read on it, and I will seek to rectify that as best I can with probably this game's help. So we'll get the plastic wrap off this guy. I'll say right now that the box quality is pretty nice, pretty good for all things considered, and this being a new design, I could have understood if maybe they didn't have quite nice a box, but this is all standard, quite nice box material from Compass. We get a nice little die here and some baggies. Nice little assortment of those. Given how few counters there are, you can get really specific maybe with your sorting. It does look like these are maybe errata counters. I'm not sure. This points out the Tanzania rail cap, the Usambara rail cap, Uganda rail cap. So some rail cap markers maybe that didn't. I don't know if these are errata or what, but they're extra counters, just a handful here. All right, very quickly here. There won't be as much to show, I suspect, because this game doesn't seem like it's a huge game. Rules of play, even, don't feel particularly thick. We're talking 16 pages of rules. There are some general notes. There's some setup stuff. But you can see there's like a page given over for the selected bibliography, so that's going to be good in this unit abbreviations. But in terms of rules, I mean, and then designer notes, which I'm going to want to read those, like 12 pages of rules. Not that much, all things considered. So 2-column format, glossy paper for the most part, 2-column format, clear text. Nothing crazy there. I do see we've got some sort of historical context pictures, which are nice, but I don't see much in the way of like example of play pictures. So Oh, well, there's a little bit of that. Soak off attacks. Okay, so good to know that those are in. So interesting. So that the rules are short. They maybe would have had a if you could increase the page count by a few to include some more examples of play or something with some vassal art or something in the background. But I don't really see much of that. There's the one case, but really not much. So I don't know. But this I can't imagine this is going to take a whole lot of time to learn how to play. It's probably going to be a very straightforward hex encounter war game, which can be quite good. Nice to have something lighter. I mean, gosh, I've just been playing Axis Empires a whole lot lately. It's not bad thinking, hey, I could play this, in a sitting. So here we have a setup chart for the Entente. We see the British, we have Belgians, we have Portuguese, we have an order of arrival, and you can see there's not much to these counters, as we'll get to. There's potentially a movement and a combat factor. They're relatively plain looking, which that's okay. I think they don't have to be extravagant. They don't even have to have NATO counters to be useful. And the rest of the order of arrival there for the Entente. We have a similar setup here for the Germans, and see relatively straightforward stuff there. Will be interesting to see if I look here. The unit designations are pretty straightforward. Expanded Entente Order of Arrival that goes in at 1918. We have the terrain effects chart. So towns, port towns. Port towns are better than regular towns, it appears. In terms of combat defense, forts are just as good as port towns, so that's kind of interesting. And then you can see the rest of that. So we all have railways, forest, rough forest, mountain terrain, a bunch of prohibited terrain generally. Weather effects, so if it's going to be rainy or dry, and what does rain do? The back side of this, pretty simple, sort of like unit charts of just, German naval, British, Belgian, Portuguese. Unit type, so infantry, naval infantry. I could kind of see where you might have trouble, like you've really got to look at these and make sure you don't mistake one for the other. Maybe if you're looking too quick and you forget about the anchor for naval infantry. Armored train, armored cars, aircraft, depots, trucks, regular foot depots, gunboat, transport, warship, all nice and good. And so we see, some units can always be in supply. We have a movement factor, a combat factor, unit type, all that good fun stuff. And then even naval units have a combat factor and a speed that likely factors in here. There's another player aid card here that is sequence of play. Wow, that seems very simple. Weather, initiative, first player turn gets reinforcements, movement, naval combat, land combat. You go back to the second player. That ends the game turn. And then you can see supply, which is going to be interesting. Like, okay, all units in or adjacent to a friendly port. And then I assume you're carrying supply via depots. Not knowing the rules, I'm not sure what all's going to happen here. Disease losses, malaria. So good. There's some representation of the fact that we're fighting this where it's being fought. Victory points based on what replacements, depots, units eliminated. Once the first time there are no German infantry units in German East Africa, minus 900 victory points. Okay. Well, I guess that means the Germans really are going to have to stick it out, aren't they? On the back, combat results table. Straightforward. Nothing too crazy here. Bombardment factors, bombardment charts, I suppose I should say. And a variety of DRMs and things there for disrupting units, causing step losses. Goodness. And then here's the standard 3 counter sheets now. These are in a plastic packaging, which I did not necessarily expect. We'll see if I can't. I'm going to have trouble because I don't have fingernails as much right now. Yeah, there we go. We're getting something. Now, it looks like these are going to be really easy to punch out. These are brown core counters. And in a couple of places, now this is my copy. I don't know how others are going to be. Some of these look like they're just a little bit off center. Now, I'm not seeing any that would be a game impacting amount, which is good. They'll look a little funny because they'll seem a little off center. You can see like this German unit, it feels a little off center, like the die cut could have been just a tiny scotch, just a little tiny bit to the right. On the back side, they all look good, so there's not as much exciting stuff here. There's units on the back, notations, but no issues, just that alignment. And then here's the British, and I don't see the same sort of offset issue. Whoops, jeez, guys. I do see, you can almost, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. You see just a little bit of a misaligned cut there for like the die cut itself is not perfectly square. But the British all look fine. They look perfectly aligned. So you can kind of compare the difference there. But I suspect these counters are going to punch out really easy. They do seem nice, pre-rounded and all that beautiful stuff. These all look good. I'm not seeing any issues with any of these. So yeah, the Germans were a little off center, but not bad enough that it actually looks that bad. It's noticeable, but it's not impacting, which to me that's just fine. Who cares? All right, and then we have our map, which again, being mounted, that's that's appreciated. Less likely to be damaged over time, like a paper map might. And I mean, I can kind of break this open here for a second. Now I suspect, yeah, this is going to be intended to be sort of vertically aligned, not horizontal. So this could be a bit of an annoyance to try to get in focus here. But yeah, so you can see Germany, East Africa. There's a VP track up there at the far upper edge of the map, and then it's just hexes, it's terrain, and then besides the victory point track, there are a few other charts and things down here. So notating available depots, player turn, month, and I assume the weather align with that month, the years, and then terrain effects chart. So, I mean, all things considered, I would have to imagine that like this would not take a whole lot of pain to learn the rules, to punch the counters, and just get to playing for a game that, again, 12 pages of rules, plays 3 to 4 hours. This is probably just a very nice, lighter war game for a topic that doesn't get a lot of attention. I'm pretty stoked to give this a try. I kind of want to, I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to try to play this before I'm trying to get other stuff done, but I would like to play this very soon. The map, feels nice. It's feeling like decent quality. I'm not seeing any issues. The one maybe interesting thing, I don't know if this is what it is. You can kind of see right up here, there's like a shading difference. It's not game impacting. It just looks like there's a little bit of a difference, like a shade was put over a big chunk of the map, and they just didn't put the same shadow on these hexes that are probably non-game relevant. But besides that, which again doesn't affect the game at all, and it doesn't really stick out because the action's really all around here. Besides that, I mean, this is all looking really cool. I definitely want to give this a play. I want to give this a try. I need to kind of revisit the history a bit because I think I'm behind on my reading on this bit of stuff here, and I should seek to rectify that. But yeah, so let's let's get this bound back up into the box. Closing thoughts on this. Well, I'm trying to recall price point on this one. Given I paid for it some years ago at this point, I don't believe this is a terribly expensive game. And when you look at the sort of straightforward nature of it, I could definitely see, like, hey, if you want a game on the subject, you don't already have one. There are like older games on this topic that have existed. But if you're looking for something new, or you've not played something specifically about this topic, this is looking like it's going to be quite a bit of fun, and I'm excited to give it a shot. And it seems like the barrier to entry is going to be very low, and it being solitaire friendly, that makes it even easier for me to get to the table. So I'm stoked to give this a shot. I hope this unboxing video has provided some value to you to understand what's in the box, what the game looks like, what the components look like. And yeah, a little bit of misalignment with the counters, not enough to really hurt anything. Generally, everything else looks pretty good, all kind of good standard Compass Games quality in terms of the material and all that goodness. It looks solid. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit like, do all that good fun stuff. If you are already getting to play this and you have opinions on the game, put the comments down below. I'm interested to see who's getting to play this first and what the general feel is. I'm going to keep an eye on it, and then just as soon as I can figure out a way to get playing it, I'm going to try to give it a shot. So see you then, guys. Take care. Keep on gaming.